Hi everyone, my name is Milutinovich, and welcome back to our CIS 101 chats with technology experts. Today I'll be talking to Professor Matt Ganis, who is a PACE alum. He teaches at PACE and he has multiple decades of experience working for IBM. So I'm going to let him introduce himself, and I'm sure this is going to be a very interesting conversation.
Great, thanks, appreciate it. Hi everyone, my name is Matt Ganis. I am an adjunct at PACE. I currently teach Python programming. I teach CIT 110, which is Intro to Information Technology, as well as astronomy. We can talk about that later if there's interest. So I started with IBM. I've been at IBM now for about 36 years, I guess, 35 years, something like that. I started back when I was a rising junior, I guess, at Pace University. And for those that are talking about doing co-ops and internships, that's how I started. Right? So I started 2 years in. I was a junior at Pace in Briarcliff at the time. 2 years, and then when I graduated, because I had been there, I knew several managers who then ended up getting me a job interview to stay, and I've never left. When I think back on how I got to IBM, I will tell you things at Pace that helped me, I think, along the way and helped me in my current job still is, I worked in the computer lab. Now, I don't know if the job still exists, whether it be tutoring and all that, but, to me, that was a great building ground because I would work in the computer lab. It was, you would walk downstairs in Wilcox Hall, and that's where our lab was in the basement. And I would have to help somebody fix their program in Pascal. Then I would switch immediately to PL1 and switch to COBOL. And I would constantly switch languages and talk programming. And that, to me, still is a great thing for me because I can switch context relatively quickly. I will also tell you, I think that computer club, I don't know what you guys call it anymore. It's got a new name to it, and I can never remember it. But I was part of the original, Pace University Computer Club, and I used to do a lot of writing for their newsletter because that was the way I could express myself. That paid off, in bundles for me. I've written a couple books now and tons of articles and things, and have enjoyed the writing and technology. So I think those things sort of set me on my career path and got me moving. So what have I done at IBM? Just to give you guys just a brief overview. I mean, I think I've kind of done everything. I've been there for such a long time, at least in software engineering. Probably some of the bigger things I ended up doing was, networking. I got into networking and building computer networks at IBM early on. I built and developed the first commercial firewall IBM ever had. One of the first firewalls sort of in the industry that, large companies had. So I was pretty adept at that. That led me to some interesting jobs along the way, but, you've got to remember the web didn't really exist at that time. It was just starting to up and come. And one of the things we decided to do was let's put the Olympics up on the internet. Now, this may sound like, who cares, because everything's on the internet these days. But at the time, this was really rare. Nobody had done anything like this. So we started with the Atlanta Olympics and put the Atlanta Olympics up on the internet so you can go to the internet and get the scores and the highlights of what was happening. My job in that particular one was security. So because I had built firewalls and networks, I was all about security. To do really large websites like this is incredibly interesting and challenging. The amount of traffic and the data that you get is just tremendous. And this is a true story, and I think I've shared it several times, but when we actually ran the Olympics in Atlanta, I sat in a computer room and I just watched my router and my firewall. I promise you, smoke was actually coming out of that router. That's how much traffic we had coming through. I am not exaggerating. It was actually smoking. We had so much traffic coming through. So great experience. Went on to build web hosting sites and architect systems. So that Olympic site that we talked about, I did the Atlanta Olympics. We ended up going on to do Sydney and Nagano as well. And along the way, learn more and more things. But the infrastructure that you put in place to host these sites is large and complex. What a great building ground, right? We built sites that literally cannot go down, which is pretty good feat. And I don't say that lightly. They are built and architected in such a way that if one of our geographic sites go down, others take up and nobody sees an outage along the way, which is kind of interesting. So that was fantastic kind of experience. Did a lot of commercial web hosting, how we build sites for people, how we architect sites for people. Believe it or not, we actually built an internet service provider, kind of like Comcast and all those. We were a web provider where you could dial into our service with 1 million customers. and just lots of different jobs along the way. But my current job is teaching people about agile software methods and how you incrementally build software and the best ways to go about taking on projects. And specifically my job, which is kind of fun, is training our new developers on how to do this, what some of the new technologies are, and how we want them to program and do their jobs. So
Yeah,
that's my current job role.
yeah, I think this can lead us really well into the next question, right? If you're already teaching future generations, I do want to ask you about the importance of even learning technology then.
Yeah.
And especially when you come from such a diverse range of experience, right? On 3 different Olympics, I believe you did some work on a project that was supposed to go onto the space station, but ended up staying on Earth. And then you work in astronomy as well.
Yep.
So
sure. So one of the interesting things about technology is no matter what discipline you're in, you're going to be surrounded by it somehow. Somehow, some way, technology is going to creep into whatever it is you're currently doing. Now, I know you're sitting there in CIS 101, and it's a required class that you've got to take. And you're like, I hate technology. I don't understand computers. It doesn't work for me. All I could say is try, because it's going to come your way. Somehow it's going to affect you in your job somewhere, some way along your path. So yeah, the astronomy is a really good example. So I am an astronomer here at the university. And at one point I was teaching a CIS class on building websites. And it just so happened that this group called the Astronomical League that I worked with needed a website built. So I said, what a perfect combination. Let me bring that in and I can bring it to my class and we could do it. This is the precursor to the websites for nonprofits that maybe some of you have taken. We did that work and they liked what we did so much that it turned out there was a side project they had going on, which was putting a telescope up on the International Space Station. And they needed software for it. So I raised my hand and I said, I've got a bunch of students, and off we went and we built the tracking and scheduling system for this telescope that was going to go up on the space station. I think we were like payload number 245 out of NASA, which is where the telescope was packed on to go up. Unfortunately, due to budget cuts and all that payload got cut and our telescope never went up. But that software still is being used today out in New Mexico someplace. There's the telescope. When we built the telescope, it was built on the ground so that the telescope could be tested. It's now being used by people with the scheduling software and the movement software, all written by Pace University students, or at least it was. They may be currently modifying it. But written by Pace University students with the intention of being up in space, but was used down here on the ground. My point is that when you think about astronomy, most times you think about, astronomers looking through eyepieces and, analyzing images and data from space, but we can bring technology to that. We brought web technology to that, which, isn't maybe some hardcore technology, but is technology to that area. So you can apply that to any discipline that you guys might be working on, right? No matter what it is. I think we talked and you were an arts major or a visual studio major, whatever it was, right? The idea is bring, that technology into that discipline as well, right? Somehow, if you can, right? Where can you bring it in? How can you apply it? So I think that's an incredibly important thing to remember.
Oh, for sure. I'm really glad you brought that up because I'm in film and working on projects with Seidenberg helped me a lot. Even just learning Excel better in my CIS 101 class helped me a lot. And helped me get a head start when I was doing film production.
Yep.
Right? Because in that, you need to be organized and you need Excel and you need to know these formulas. Right. So you can apply it to so many different things.
Well, think about that, right? So talking to all you CIS 101 students that are out there, right, listening to this. So your professor is giving you some spreadsheet that you're like, why do I have to write this spreadsheet? I could care less. Right. And I get it because sometimes our minds think differently. I mean, I give you a lot of credit because I couldn't create a film. I am artistically inept. I am not I have no artistic ability, but I try. So I get the difficulty in sometimes trying to understand technology when that's not your thing. But here's what you need to think about, right? Is as your professor gives you an assignment to write that spreadsheet or do something, look ahead a little bit and say, my major is nursing. Why do I need to understand how to build a business spreadsheet? Well, maybe you don't. But if you can figure out a use for a spreadsheet in what your discipline is going to be, and as you're writing that spreadsheet in the stuff you don't want to do for that business project, whatever it is, think about how you might apply it to your nursing or in your film, right? Perhaps you have a spreadsheet that tracks your portfolio, the things you've done. So how can I sort it? And how can I move it around? How can I keep track of things? No professor in their class is going to give you an assignment to say, write a spreadsheet to track your artistic work, right? Because we're trying to cover everybody. But you have to take that step in that class when they give you the assignment to say, how would I apply this to my role that I'm going to have in 3 or 4 years when I graduate this university, right? How can I use this somewhere else? And that's the important thing, right, to think about is how do I apply it? How could I use it? What's the potential? And I think that will help make that class a little bit more palatable, right? Especially if you're struggling with, I hate technology. Think of how you'll use it in the future.
Yeah, that's perfect advice. That's completely agreed. Which is, you kind of answered my next question, which was about how what students can do to be successful in this class, and then how they can apply that for their future careers. But you kind of nailed it.
Well, right, but yeah, how are you successful? Like I said, think about how you'd apply it. You struggle with it a little bit, but you think about, gee, when I get out of here, maybe I'll do this other extension. Maybe I'll tweak it. Maybe I'll figure out, right, that I did a spreadsheet, and some people do things. They have a website where they can access it on a website and they can sort of see stuff they've done. So maybe there's a database that's needed, right? Or something else is needed, or a web front end that's needed, all those kinds of things. So take the little grain of what they're giving you and look towards the bigger picture of what you want to do, right? Where you want to be. And I think that's the right way to do it. Success in CIS 101 is great, right? But what you want is success in your life and your career and the things you're doing. And that's what the technology can help you do. It's going to give you that added advantage over the person that gave up, that didn't think that way, that didn't think of what technology can I apply to my discipline, right? It'll give you that little bit of an advantage. And I think that'll make you successful more than just in CIS 101, but in your career, which is what you want.
Thank you very much, Professor Ganis. Yeah, thanks for giving these wonderful messages and this awesome advice to the students. And students, good luck with this week of school, and I'll see you with some other tech experts. Thank you.
Bye-bye.